everybody, I'm so glad you're here. As you can see, I've had a bit of a love affair going on with making these beads, and I'm going to share with you what I do with them, how to do them, and what I do with them. But this is a design that's been out there. I saw a recent video on an Italian channel that I follow called Hobby Perline, and it's all in Italian. It's auto dubbed. If you can deal with that, I hate that, but it's there, and she did a really cool way of making this bead where she did the weaving around a chain. And my friend Gail has done a version of this where she kept this cylindrical bit going, like here's just a single bead like floating on a chain, and she did a version of this where she kept the cylinder going around a piece of leather for a bracelet length. And I even believe that Jill Wiseman has an old video on this pattern, but I'm going to show you how to do it, how to do several variations on it, and then the different ways that I have used this beautiful bead in design. And I just have to say, like, this is, I make a lot of jewelry, and a lot of things I make just for the challenge of can I do it? A lot of things I do because someone asked me to make it, or the beads were in a bead box, or just for fun I'll do things. But this I did with my whole heart because it's my style through and through, like the cylinder bead, just the pattern, this tubular, chic, elegant, I don't know, this just speaks to my heart. So I've been crazy, as you can see, making these beads, and so I did this version here as a slider pendant. And I was even thinking that if I did a smaller clasp on this chain, that I could make several colors of this and slide them on and off to have a different bead for different outfits. So that's one idea. And then using them as a station in a chain, like it's like a rosary chain. It's so classic. And on these, I put a little spacer bead to make the cylinder kind of closed off. But on this bracelet, I just did my simple loop wire through the bead, so the bead kind of floats on the wire, and then it's connected with a really fancy gold-filled diamond cut jump ring, and I put gold-plated lobster claw clasps. And I actually think I'm just going to put this one on, and it's going to give me a chance to use my bracelet buddy that I just made. So if you guys didn't see this video for the bracelet buddies, I'll put a link in the description box for them. But it's like such a great gift. And if you make a beautiful bracelet for someone and give them a bracelet buddy tool to help them connect their bracelets, oh my, what a gift that would be. But I made this one for myself in the video, and I did another one, but they just work great for these kind of chain bracelets. And look at that, it's so beautiful. This makes me so happy, as much as my beaded bracelet does. Okay, so the other thing that I've done with the beads is made these really amazing earrings, all different designs, and I've made my own ear wires. So I'm going to show you how to do ear wires today too. I've been doing these really chic, avant-garde, like swooping, oversized hoops, and I use the scraps of my chain that I have cut away as a fancy oval jump ring on these earrings. And then let's see, these are done. I'm going to show you, we're going to make a couple pairs of earrings with these beads, but look at this pair. Like with this pair, I used a brass spacer bead at the top and some check glass leaves in the colors to dangle from the bottom. We're going to do this one together. This is going to be our first project. I've been in my stash just pulling out all the little dangles and baubles. I put this bead on a rod on a bar connector, and I have a little marguerite crystal hanging from this one, so I'll show you how we did that. And then I did this earring with one of the cylinder beads, and I did part of the pattern for this and flattened it to make the center of my flower. So we'll do that earring together as well, and I'll show you. And we're also going to do a necklace. So let me just show you. I'm going to do a necklace. I have most of my bead work done for the necklace, and it's going to be a station necklace, kind of like this. I have been working with this really beautiful anti-tarnish chain that I just found. So for my necklace, I'm going to put these beads on this chain as bead stations. I mean, just think it's going to be stunning. But let's start off. Let me make a tiny little space. Oh, and I don't want to forget this sweet little guy. This is part of this pattern, just one row of it. And I've just made a little spacer bead or a little connector out of it. I went ahead and put little disc spacers on either end and put my wire through, but you could use it just as a spacer bead, as a little slider bead. And I'll show you how to do that. I may make a few more of those for the necklace project. We'll see. I am just having so much fun with this, and it's just so easy. So let's do a pair of earrings first. I made the ear wires for this, and I have my jump ring, and I have 2 of my little spacer beads. I'm just gonna dump this out. And so for the earring, you will need super duos in 2 colors for this earring, and you only need 5 super duos of each color. Let me separate things out here. You will also need to thread a needle. I have a size 11 here, but size 12, like smaller would be good. And I have 6-pound fire line threaded on my needle. I've taken a wingspan, which is way more than I'll need, but I have a lot of beads to make, so I didn't want to have to keep rethreading. So that's a little tip for that. And I think what I'm going to do is just make a little space here, because I've been beading from one of my trays. It just keeps me organized. So I'm just going to make a little bit of space here and bring in my tray that I was working on. So this is the super duos for my necklace project, and 11/0 Toho beads and a few spacer beads. And so let's work from this tray. So as I said, you need 5 of each color. When we get to the bead with the 3 colors, you'll need 5 of each of the colors that you choose. And I wanted to talk to you about your super duos because they come in different sizes, and if you don't check before you get started choosing your colors, you may run into a situation with the sizes being off by 1/2 millimeter. So my burgundy ones that you see in this bead are from Starman, and they are size 5 by 2 millimeters. So they are smaller than my other ones, which are Czech super duos, and the size on these is 2 by 6 by 6 millimeter. And let's see if this one is the same. This one is not the same either. This one is 2.5 by 5 millimeter. So those are my colors that I've been using. And what happened to me is, like, this one's smaller, this one's bigger, and this one's like medium. So if you want your cylinder bead to be like perfectly cylindrical, then check that your super duos are all from the same brand, or at least all the same size. So what I ended up doing on like this earring is putting the larger super duo at the bottom of my bead, and then the medium, and then the small one. So for me, it had the visual weight on the bottom of my bead for that. And then for my beads that are going to go into my necklace, I ended up doing my largest super duo size right in the middle of the bead. And you can't really tell that this is 1/2 millimeter smaller size than my pink color. So if you care about that, I just wanted to mention that, because I went into my stash and grabbed all the super duos that I had and started laying out my colors, and I realized that 1/2 millimeter size can make a difference. And so, and some of my I have some that are from the craft store that were just a clearance item last year. And so let's see if my purple ones, and some of them don't even have a size on them, like the craft store ones oftentimes don't even have a size on them. And this one I picked up at a bead shop. So, you know, just giving you a heads up about super duos. They're just not all the same size, but you know, it still works. Like you see, if you have one that's a little bit larger, then you maybe want to place it in the middle of your bead, or like on this earring at the bottom of the bead. Or I chose my largest one to make my little spacer bead. So there is that. And then these are 11/0 Toho, and for your design, what I have found works the best is to have two colors. And I really like the opaque colors, that, you know, two colors that are colors, and then your seed bead, your 11-0 seed bead, being a metallic. That looks really nice. Now you probably could reverse it and get a different look where you have two metallics, like, you know, gold and silver or copper and gold, and then have a colored 11-0 seed bead. That is also an option. But what we're going to do is pick up, I don't have a stop bead on, I'm going to pick up an 11-0 and pick up a super duo, pick up an 11-0, pick up a super duo, and get 5 on my needle. And you guys that know me, you know that I have a magical power of having a blocked hole in a bead for every single video. And with super duos, it's really important that you can get through. Like this one has not a blocked hole, but it was a little tight. My needle is going through. So as you're picking up your 5, you might want to check to make sure that your holes are clear, because you need to use both holes, and when you get back around, you'll have a problem if you have one with a blocked hole. So on your needle, it looks like that. Seed bead, and then 5 super duos with a seed bead in between, and ending with a super duo. And I'm going to just bring those all down to my tail. And like I said, you don't need a ton of thread for this, but I've taken a wingspan here because I'm going to make a lot of beads. So I'm just going to get this down to having, you know, a tail with maybe 2 inches, and I'm going to make a circle here and get a knot in my circle. So just pull it into a circle and then get a knot in there. You can go 2 times or 3 times with your knot, however you feel makes it secure. And just pull the knot in between a seed bead and a super duo and pull it as tight as you can. And then we're going to leave that tail hang out and reinforce. So I'm going to run my needle through my next bead, seed bead, super duo, seed bead, and I'm going to go all the way around and just reinforce. And I will say here, you know, that when I first started making these, I thought, oh, I'm going to skip that step. I'll get my beads done a lot faster if I don't do this step of going around. But you want your cylinder to be nice and firm and solid and not squishy. Like you want it to be firm. So when I pinch it with my finger, it is actually a cylinder bead. And if you don't go around and reinforce each of your rows, and I'll show you on almost every row, you do a reinforcing where you run your thread through. And my thread is catching on my pliers. Make a little space here. So really don't skip this step is the point, because you know at the end it will matter. So I'm back to where my tail is. I'm going to go past my tail and want to be coming out of a super duo. After I've done my reinforce, I'm going to be coming out of a super duo. So I have to go one more. And just pull it through, and then I'll pause and let you see. So it looks like that. I've done one row of reinforcing, and now we can go ahead and get rid of the tail. You don't need it. And so we're coming out the bottom hole of the super duo, and we want to put our needle through the top hole of that super duo that we're coming out of. So your thread just hugs along the side there. And so now we've just like stepped up to the next row, and we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead and go through the next super duo, and then pick up an 11-0 seed bead and go next through the next super duo all the way around. And we're going to pull this tight. The first few you may not be able to pull it tight, and that's okay. You'll get it into, it'll be a little ring. See how it's starting to go in? 11-0 seed bead and through the next super duo. Seed bead and through the next super duo, and then I'm going to go around again and just reinforce. So that's my last seed bead that I'm adding in, and I'm just going to pull this nice and tight so we have the little spacer bead. So if you want to make some that are just a single row, that's what this is. And then I put a tiny little disc spacer on the end and put my wire through and made that little component. But of course I'm going to keep going because we're doing this earring, and like I said, don't skip the step of reinforcing. So you're going to run your needle through your next super duo, seed bead super duo, until you come back around and pull it nice and tight. Don't be afraid to pull this particular pattern nice and tight, and go, you know, sometimes you can only go through like 2 at a time, sometimes 3 at a time. Don't get in a rush, but don't skip the step of reinforcing. And when you're finished reinforcing, you want to be coming out a seed bead, an 11-0 seed bead. So that's going to be the end of my circle. It's such a small cylinder that it takes no time at all to reinforce. So my thread is coming out of this seed bead, and now I'm going to pick up 3 seed beads, 3 of my 11-0s on my needle. And my thread is coming out, if I'm looking at it, my thread is coming out the left side. I'm going to circle around and put my needle through the right side of that same 11-0 and exit where I'm already exiting. So I'm just making a circle. And I am going to need to go through the next super duo and the next seed bead. Sometimes you can do it all in one pass, and sometimes you have to take it a bead at a time. Whoops, got a tangle. It depends on how tight of a bead weaver you are. Let me get untangled here and pull that into place and show you. How do these things happen? My thread is quite long because I just reloaded it. So when I pull it into place, I've made a little seed bead diamond, and my thread is coming out of the super duo, but I always need to be coming out of one of the 11-0 seed beads for this step. So I'm going to run my needle through the next super duo. I have the habit of putting my thumb over my work when I'm pulling. It keeps the thread from being tangled, and when I try to show you and I take my thumb off, that's when I get a lot of tangles. But I've given it a nice tug, so my diamond is in place and my thread is coming out of the next seed bead, and then we just repeat that 4 more times or 5 more times. Pick up 3 seed beads on your needle, circle back around and go through the right side of that same seed bead, exiting the left, and go through the next super duo. And that time I was able to go ahead and go on to the next 11-0 seed bead all in one pass. It doesn't always happen like that. And I just hold my thumb over my work, and when I pull, I've made my second little diamond. I'm coming out of my 11-0 seed bead and repeat 3 more on my needle. I'm coming out the left side of this, so I'm going to circle around and put my needle through the right side and come out the left side, and if I can, go through the next super duo, and if it's possible, at that time I was able to also pick up that next 11-0 seed bead. You may not always be able to do that. It really depends on how tight you pull. But you know, it makes it a little bit faster, and give it a nice tug. And now we have 3 of our diamonds in, and we have 2 more to do. So I'm going to repeat that step 2 more times. Okay, my last little diamond is in place, and I'm coming out of the super duo and I'm back to my first diamond. In order to step up to add in my next row, my needle has to go through that bottom 11-0 seed bead. It's the seed bead that's sitting in between the 2 super duos at the bottom. Can you see where my needle's coming out? So I'm going to pull that through. And again, if you can do this, I'm going to have to move all my earrings because my thread is grabbing them every time. I love to look at them. They're just so pretty, but they're in the way. Put them over there. Okay, so I'm now coming out right where I started, but I need to get my needle up to this tippy top, this point of my diamond seed bead. So I'm going to go up through this seed bead as well as the point. Okay, so I'm coming out of the point of that diamond, and now I'm going to pick up my alternate color of Super Duo, my next color, and I'm going to run my needle through the next point, the tip of the next diamond, and let that sit there, and pick up my next Super Duo and put my needle through the tip of my next diamond. And if you noticed, we're reversing our direction. When I was doing my diamonds, I was working counterclockwise, but when you come back up through, now you're working clockwise. And for this pattern, you continue to shift directions. So I'm going to pick up my next Super Duo and go through the next diamond tip. So it looks like that, and get all 5 of them just like that. And you can start to pull, and they're going to pull up. They're a little wobbly at this point. I'm going to pick up my last one, my 5th one, and I'm going to go through the point of the first one that I did and then do the reinforcing row. So I'm going to run my needle through the next seed bead, the Super Duo seed bead, and I'm going to run my needle all the way around just to reinforce, not picking up any beads. So it looks a little funky because they're loose now at this point, but I just want to make sure that I run my needle through the Super Duo, the seed bead, the Super Duo, the seed bead. Sometimes you can do 3, sometimes you can get your needle through, like I got through 4 that time. You can't always get through so many at once, but it's pretty loose because of the way I'm holding it to show you what I'm doing. But I'm giving it a nice tight tug because this is just to reinforce, and I can already feel my bead firming up. I'm going to go through. And when you feel that you've reinforced enough, we're going to step up one more time. So I want to be coming out of a Super Duo, the bottom hole of a Super Duo, and pull that tight. And we're going to reverse directions again because now I want to put my needle through the top hole of that Super Duo where I'm coming out of the bottom. And now we're stepped up, we're in position to add in our next bead. And this time we're just doing a row of 11 seed beads. So pick up a seed bead, go through the next Super Duo, pick up a seed bead, go through the next Super Duo until you have all 5 in. Last one, through the last Super Duo, and same thing. You have to go around this row one more time just to reinforce, not picking up any beads, but just running your needle and thread through that last row of beads. And you can feel your bead firm up. It's loose enough that I can, run my needle through a few beads, but after you go around, it becomes a really nice, firm, elegant, chic cylinder bead. So cool. Okay, and then what I do to tie off is just do a half hitch knot. So I'm going to put my needle up through and make a loop, and I'm going to pull this knot in between 2 beads, really nice and tight to hide in between 2 beads. I'm going to do that a couple of times, just the way that we got started, and then pull that in between, stay where I need to be, pull it in between the 2 beads to hide, and then I'm just going to run my needle through a couple of beads to pull the knot inside. Just run it through a couple of beads and do that again. I usually do a knot in 2 places, just like that. Loop it through and pull it in between the 2 beads 2 times. Just like that. And to finish off, I'll just run my needle through a couple more beads and then snip the thread. And look at that. Isn't that so gorgeous? Now you see why I've been a little bit addicted and why I've made so many, because it's so beautiful, so fast, and so fun. So let's assemble the earring here. I'm going to take a little piece of 20 gauge wire, and I used my 1.5 millimeter 1-step looper to put a simple loop in one end. And I'm just going to make sure that loop is closed really well and work harden it. And then I'm going to feed on one of my spacer beads, my bead, my other spacer bead, and get my simple loop in this side. Put it back through my tool, push it up close. Simple loop, center my loops, and if my loops need alignment, I'll do it usually while it's still in the tool. And my little beaded component is ready for the ear wire. I'm going to open my ear wire and attach my bead with my lighter color at the top. And then I'm going to take my fancy jump ring, open that a little bit wider, and put that through this little bauble. I can't remember where I got these, but I think these came from the Fab Find section of the Jessie James Beads website. That's where I think they came from, but they've been in my stash for a little while. But I find some of the most beautiful little baubles and things on that section of their website. And they have a great section, a great selection of super duos on the Potomac Beads website. So there's always a link to Potomac Beads in the description boxes of my videos for the Permalac anti-tarnish coating that I love so much. But look at this gorgeous pair of earrings. That is so fun. So you might have guessed that we've done 2 rows, and you might have already guessed what comes next if you want to do a 3-row bead, but I'm going to do one with you just to show you. And while we're putting earrings together, I'll show you what I did with this earring too. So I have another little dish here with a tiny little jump ring that's just going to put my ear wire on the top just to keep my orientation right. And I have my bead made. And like I said, on this one, I did it so that my larger super duo was at the bottom of the earring. And this is so cool because I just found a bar that fits through the cylinder bead. So just like that, and the loop just kind of hides inside, and that is like the most contemporary earring. And then I did have to get a teeny tiny little jump ring, and it's from this really nice assortment of jump rings that I have in all different sizes. I really needed that to go through the whole of this bar, of this little connector bar. See how it has a really tiny little hole? So I just had to get a really small jump ring through there, and then my ear wire. It's very small. I'm just going to get that in there and close it. Look at that. I had so much fun with these, making these beads, but also designing with these beads. And that's just one example. So this is like floats on this bar. I just thought that was such a fun, really amazing earring design. And yeah, the second one is done. And so let's go to this earring here, because for this earring, I did the exact same thing with my bead. My little cylinder bead is exactly the way the purple one was done, but I had this finding in my stash. It's tangled in my thread. I switched to this black 6-pound Fireline, and I'll put links in the description box to some 6-pound Fireline. I did use the 10-pound for a couple of them, but it is a little bit too thick for as many passes since this project has to be reinforced. So I would recommend the 6-pound Fireline. And so I'm going to make my center for this earring. We're just going to make this part here, and I had counted out extra beads for some reason. Only need one color. I chose this darker color, and we start the exact same way with an 11-0 seed bead, a super duo, an 11-0 seed bead until you have all 5. Okay, so I have the same thing I did before. I have 5 super duos separated by an 11-0 gold seed bead, and I'm just going to bring this down and do that same bit again, making a circle and tying a knot, forming them into a circle and tying a knot. And get that knot in between the beads. So starting out the same way, it looks just like that, and I'm going to repeat that exact same step where I reinforce this circle. So just run my needle back through everything, and when you pull, you kind of pull your knot inside one of the beads so your knot is hidden. Good little trick. Okay, I'm back to my tail, so I want to come around past the tail, and I want to be coming out of a super duo. So I have to go one more. I want to be coming out of a super duo so that I can step up and pull that tight. And now my thread, my needle goes through the top hole of the super duo that I'm coming out of. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my tail. I always found it was helpful to not have it in the way. Okay, I'm coming out of the top hole of a super duo, and I'm going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead. And put it in between. Pick up an 11-0 seed bead, go to my next super duo, pick up an 11-0 seed bead, go to my next super duo, and just do that all the way around. Okay, I'm back at my first super duo, and I'm putting my needle through the super duo, through the next seed bead, and I'm going to do a pull tight. So it's, watch what happens, pull tight. So I've made that little cylinder, mini cylinder like spacer bead, but it's still pretty loose. So I'm going to do a row of reinforcing where I'm not picking up any beads, just running my needle through everything and pulling tight. Just pull nice and tight. Did. So that's what I have so far, this dimensional little ring, and I'm going to pick up my 3 seed beads. Like, it's the same step over and over again. I'm going to pick up my 3 seed beads. I'm coming out the left side of this 11-0, so I'm going to circle around and go through the right side and exit through the 11-0 and the super duo, and I've got to get over to the next seed bead. So this time I was able to do it all in one pass, and I've just made that little diamond. I'm coming out the left side of the next seed bead, so I'm going to pick up 3 more on my needle, circle around, come through the right side, exiting to the left, and going through the next super duo and the next seed bead to be in position to do it again. Three seed beads, go back through the right, exit the left, and get over to my next 11-0 seed bead. I did it all in one pass that time. And pull tight so I have 3 little diamonds in place. I'm coming out of the left side of my seed bead, so I pick up 3 more, go around to the right, exit through the left, and see if I can come out. I got that one all in one pass as well. Pull tight. 4 of my seed bead diamonds are in place. This is my last one. 3 more seed beads. And I'm going to just try to get over to where I can tie off, because this is my center. This is my center of my flower drop on my earring. And then I just embellished it with a crystal, so I'll show you that. And I just tie off the same way every time, just hiding a half hitch knot in between 2 beads. So, and you can reinforce a little bit if you want to. Just going to get in here in between 2 beads and do a half hitch knot and pull it nice and tight in between. Do that every time. Okay, so to assemble this earring, on this one I floated my cylinder bead on the wire by itself, and because of doing that I had to go up to a 3mm simple loop to keep the bead in place. So I've got my 3mm one-step looper this time, and I'm just going to put my wire through just past the back cutter, let it make that cut for me and make my loop. And so like that larger loop is really necessary when you're not using like a spacer bead to stop it, but it looks so cool to have the bead floating on the wire, I think. It really shows off the cylindrical shape. Then I'm just going to get my loop in the other side, same thing, pull it down, close my tool. You know, the one-step looper is wonderful, but it's a funky little tool. Depending on the shape of your bead, you know, sometimes you don't always get the loop closed, but I get really beautiful, consistent loops with it. And let me check. I did this a couple days ago when I was playing with this, so I don't remember everything that I did. My ear wire's open a little bit on this one. So I attached my simple loop right to the top of my ear wire on this one. And then let me show you, because of the way the finding is, because of the kind of the filigree on it, I used double jump rings. Can you see? I used double jump rings through the larger filigree to hold my flower in place in the center. And I'm going to go ahead and do that before I glue my beaded part together so that I can leave it alone and let it
Flower
dry.
finding is attached, and this is just a little bit of E6000 glue. I'm going to put a little bit of E6000 glue on the back of my beaded flower. And then I'm just going to place it the same as I did my other one, so that I have, let me hold it up to the camera, so that I have two flowers, two diamonds. I did it like that. So just copy my other one. So I have one, it's a 5-point diamond going on a 6-point flower. So I have it so one diamond is coming down here and there's a little space at the top, just like that. And then a little bit of glue and just set it. And I'm just going to set this one off to the side to dry, but look at this gorgeous pair of earrings. Okay, we're going to make one more bead together. We're going to do a 3-layer bead together, and then I'm going to turn that into a really long cylinder bead station necklace with this gorgeous gold anti-tarnish chain. I just found this. It's a great Amazon find. I hope the anti-tarnish is really true, because it certainly is beautiful, but I'll put a link for that in the description box. And I'm just going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to start with one of my ruby red beads and pick up an 11-0 seed bead, a super duo, an 11-0 super duo, and get 5 on here the same way we've done all the other beads. And same thing again, I'm going to reinforce my ring of beads by running my needle through everything and coming back past my tail. I'm coming out of the bottom hole of my super duo, and I need to put my thread through the top hole of that same super duo. And now I'm going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead and go through the next top hole of the super duo, or empty hole. Pick up an 11-0 seed bead, go through the next empty hole super duo, and do that all the way around. I have my ring nice and tight, and I'm going to go around and reinforce without picking up any beads. So it looks like that. And now I'm going to pick up 3 of my 11-0 seed beads. I'm coming out of the left side of this seed bead. I'm going to circle around and enter the right side and exit the left side, and also the next super duo and the next seed bead if possible. I have this one pretty tight, so I have to pull my little 3. Just made my first diamond. I need to be coming out of the next 11-0 seed bead to be in position to pick up my 3 and create the next diamond. 3 more seed beads on my needle, circle around and go in the right side, exiting the left side and going through the next super duo, and if possible the next seed bead. Then I'm in position to do my next diamond. And so I'm going to do that 3 more times so that I have 5 diamond
shaped seed bead shapes. Okay, so on my last one, I need to get my needle back through the bottom of the very first diamond. I was able to do it all in one pass. Picked up my 3 seed beads. I'm going through everything, and I am in position now to pull this through. So when I pull that into place, I have my 5th diamond, and my thread is coming out the seed bead in between the super duos, and now I want to get to the top of that diamond, to the point, the tippy top bead. So just like that. So my thread is coming out the tippy top bead of that last diamond. It was my first diamond. And I'm going to pick up my next color, which on these beads was my cream colored super duo. So I'm going to pick up a super duo and then go through the next diamond point, the next tippy top seed bead. Pick up a super duo and go through the next tippy top seed bead, super duo, the next diamond point. You can start to let them go toward the center if you want to, or do it at the end. Pull tight at the end after you have them all on, have this round on. That's my last one, and I'm going to do my reinforcing row. So I'm just going to run my needle back through the seed beads and the bottom hole of that row of super duos all the way around, pulling nice and tight. Okay, and when I'm finished reinforcing, I need my needle to be coming out of that bottom hole of a super duo. Pull it nice and tight, and then to step up, I'm going to go through the empty hole, the top hole of that same super duo. I'm now reversing directions, and now I'm going to put an 11-0 seed bead in between every one of those. So pick up an 11-0 and go through the empty hole of the next super duo, and do that all the way around and pull tight. That's my last one, and I'm going to go around one more time without picking up any beads, just to reinforce. Just running my needle and thread through every super duo and every seed bead in that row. Okay, and when I'm finished reinforcing, I need to be coming out the left side of an 11-0 seed bead. So we look like that. And now I'm going to pick up 3 seed beads, 3 11-0s, and I'm going to make that circle, put my needle through the right side of the bead I'm coming out of, and come out the left, and if possible, go through the next super duo and the next 11-0 seed bead. Sometimes you can only get your seed bead and your super duo, but and it's like gets a little tight because I've reinforced, but you want it tight because that makes a really nice cylinder bead. So my first diamond is in place. I'm coming out the left side of an 11-0 seed bead, pick up 3 more, make that circle, enter my needle on the right side of the bead I'm coming out of, come out the left side, through the super duo and through the next 11-0, and I'm ready to create another diamond. Pull that nice and tight. I have 2 diamonds in place, and I'm going to do that 3 more times. Okay, this is my last one, and I am coming out of the left side of my last 11-0 seed bead, through the super duo and through the seed bead, the 11-0 in that first diamond that we did. This one's always a little bit tight because I've been pulling nice and tight.
So I have my 5 little diamonds, and I'm coming out this bottom seed bead of this diamond, and I need to put my needle up to the top. So I want to go through those 2 seed beads to get to the top of the diamond. And here's where we go to the 3rd color. So we stopped before on 2 colors, but now I'm going to go to my lighter pink, pick up a super duo, go through the point of the next diamond and pull that into place. Pick up a super duo, go through the point of the next diamond, pull that into place, super duo, next diamond, 11-0 seed bead, and all the way around. And through the last one, and a row of reinforcing. So I'm going to run my needle through everything that I just added in. They're in place, but they're a little wobbly. So I'm just going to run my needle around this, what I just added in, and pull tight. Okay, when I'm happy with my reinforcing, I need to be coming out of a super duo, the bottom hole, and I'm going to put my needle through the empty hole of that super duo. And this is the last row, just picking up an 11-0 seed bead and going through the empty hole of the next super duo. And I'm going to do that all the way around and then reinforce again. Okay, this is so amazing. Look at this. I just love it. I'm not sure if I want to create more of these little spacer beads, but I'm going to move everything out of the way so we can work on this really long necklace. Okay, so what I'm going to make here is a necklace that's really long, almost like flapper girl length. And this is the part that goes behind my head. It's going to be so long that I don't feel the need for a clasp. And so that part is going to go behind my head. And then I'm going to create bead stations. And I did an odd number of my cylinder beads here. So I would have 3 on each side and 1 at the very bottom to make that round. This is not gonna fit under the camera because I want to, I want it to be long, and I want to have a good section of chain in between each one of my cylinder beads. So I'm going to make my components the same way that I did for the earrings. I'm going to use that 3mm one-step looper. I can't hold on to it. I'm so excited. I have enjoyed making these beads like you would not believe, and designing with them has been amazing too because they're so cool. And I've taken kind of a long piece of wire because I do have quite a few components to make, so start off with a long piece. So I'm going to do the same thing, just feed my wire on my cylinder bead and get my simple loop in the other side. And I'm going to do that to all of the beads before I start assembling. Just get 2 simple loops. You can totally do your simple loops with your pliers if you want to. If you're, I love the consistency and the ease when I'm doing any kind of a beaded chain. I just love my one-step loopers. Even though it's a quirky little tool, I always have to fiddle with the loops a little bit, but I really like the cylinder bead kind of floating on the wire, moving a little bit. And so what I'm going to do is open one of the simple loops and attach it right to my chain. So when I cut my links, because they are solid, I'm cutting them at an angle and not at the top of the oval link. and I'm going to open it carefully, and I save these because this just becomes like a fancy oval jump ring, and it's perfect for earrings or adding little dangles because this is solid brass. So I just save it. It's a fancy oval jump ring now. I don't throw any of them away. And then I'm going to attach this to my cylinder bead that's here at the top of the top part of my necklace, and I'm going to work my way around, turning my cylinder beads into these little floating components and adding in 15 links of chain. Work hard in those loops, and then this one will go here, and I'm going to work my way around. And I was trying to decide if I wanted this in here, and I think what I'll do is make my chain with my cylinder beads only, and then if I want to add some length, or if I feel like it needs a little something extra, I'll make a couple more of these and pop them in between. But I'm going to get my links, all my components all done with my cylinder beads first. Okay, I'm on my last component, and what I ended up doing, 15 links in between, was getting my length a little bit too long. So what I did is my bottom 3, I went 7 links and snipped and added my cylinder bead, 7 links, cylinder bead, 7 links, and I snipped right here, and that's going to be my last cylinder bead. So my necklace will have a little bit more of my cylinder beads toward the bottom where I can see them and kind of play with them, and because I love them so much. Designing with these beads was, I don't know what was more fun, making them or designing with them. So I'm just opening, and I'm going to attach right here, and this is just a pop over your head, just gorgeous, gorgeous necklace. So let me, it's really long. It's definitely not going to fit underneath the camera lens, so I'll definitely put some better pictures up at the end. But so what my pattern ended up is that I don't have as many links in between my cylinder beads on this final drop, and then up here around my neck it's just the nice light airy chain. And I ended up feeling like I didn't need this little spacer bead, but I was thinking what a gorgeous bracelet it would make to do a cream one of these, and then do the lighter pink, and then do that burgundy red, and make a little mini like link bracelet. And I have just a few of my red left over, and it only takes 5 super duos per bead, per color per bead, so it doesn't take a lot. Okay, you guys, this was more than fun. I really hope you got some inspiration. I hope you enjoyed my take on a pattern that's been out there. I definitely didn't invent it. I know so many of you tell me I don't do needle and thread, I don't do bead weaving, but this is such a fun, fast, easy project, and it's just absolutely delightful to make and to design with, and I really hope you'll give it a try. And I'm just going to pull in what you can do with just a single bead one more time. Like, look at that. Just a single bead floating on a chain is absolutely gorgeous. So I thank you so much for watching. Check the description box for links. Like I said, they have a great selection of super duos on Potomac Beads website, as well as seed beads there. And anything else when I edit that I can link, I will do that for you. And I just realized I didn't show you how I was doing my ear wires, so I'll link another video because I've been making my own ear wires a lot these last few months. So I'll link another ear wire video. They're very simple to make, and I've been using my super big bail making plier, and that's always linked in the description box too. So I hope everybody's warm and well this winter, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao, friends.